This is an informational video on looking at the very first and second sutra in book one. And so we're going to look at these sutras and have a little discussion on how we interpret them and how they apply to our life. So, in the very first sutra, book one, so the sutras are broken down into four books, and each book has a different theme or focus to help guide us on our journey in life with insight and knowledge to help kind of create like a template for us so that we can know where to focus and how to evolve. And so the very first sutra, Atta Yoga Anuasanam. So now the teachings of yoga begin, or now begins the teachings of yoga. So the key word here is now. And this is, when we think of this now, the teachings of yoga begin, that everything is happening right here in this very moment. And so to remind us to come back, to keep coming back into the present moment. So the now is happening all of the time when we direct our consciousness back into realizing this moment. So the teachings of yoga, or the beginnings of the teachings of yoga, is happening now in this moment when we're on our mat, when we're off our mat, when we're moving around into the world. So that yoga becomes a spiritual practice, not just the times when we touch our mat, but all of the times in our whole life. So the word atta, it is to signify a new beginning. It's an opportunity to notice, in the past, was there anything that maybe isn't serving us anymore, or something in a perception or a way of being or a pattern that we've been moving with throughout our life, and we feel ready to let it go or offer a release to ourselves. And so in this sutra, there's a suggestion that that change begins when we look inside of us. So we don't need to wait for something to change us, because we have that ability within us to help evolve and shift and change. So, in the translation of the Yoga Sutras by Nischala Joy Devi, her translation is called The Secret Power of Yoga. So I will be referencing a few of her translations in this PowerPoint. And the way that she translates this first sutra is with humility, an open heart and mind. So that awareness of humility, this means that we're open in our heart, we're open in our mind. And in that space of being open, we can embrace the sacred study of yoga. And when we're developing this open heart and mind, we can notice, where have I come from? What brought me to the practice? What are my roots? What's evolved me to get to this point where I am right now? And then, do we have any goals? Where are we going in life? Okay, so where we are right now can influence what has happened in our past. And all of these kind of crossroads coming together to help us make this evolution of maybe decisions or growth for moving forward, reminding us to keep coming back to the present moment. So I just wanted to share this quote by Buddha. What you are is what you have been. What you are is what you have been. What you will be is what you do now. What you will be is what you do now. So in the second sutra in book one, so this first book is all on how do we bring our mind to that state of enlightenment or unity or unification. So samadhi. And this awareness of yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. So how do we come back to our divine self, of our true self, or connect with consciousness? So we're going to break down each of these words to better understand the sutra. So yoga, a lot of the time yoga is translated from that root word yuj, which means to yoke, to join, or unite. And so in yoga, we're using physical postures, we're using breathing exercises, we're using meditation to improve our overall health. So yoga encompasses a lot of different things, not just the typical yoga postures, but we can think of the 8 limbs of yoga really helping us identify what is yoga. So chitta in Sanskrit is a word primarily referring to the instrument or this inner instrument of our mind, or the totality of our mind. So chit is universal consciousness, or the sea of awareness. And chitta is individual consciousness expressed within us. So knowing that we are part of the universal consciousness, and we each have a portion of that universal consciousness within us, which is translated as the chitta. Sorry, chitta is our individual consciousness. Okay, and individual consciousness rests in the heart. So we have the Atman, the spirit, the soul. And it is through the doorway of the heart that we reconnect back to universal consciousness, the chit. And so, what is the chitta? What is this individual consciousness that is expressed inside of us? So, this is our mind. So, all of our senses, how we're interacting with the world, how we intaking information, and then how are we moving through the world once we take in that information. And so, our ego, which is called the ahamkara, and so our ego, also called the smita, you'll see it in the text. So our personalities. So what are all the different roles that we take on in life? So for me, I can think of I'm a mother, I'm a partner to my partner in life, I am a yoga therapist, I am a friend, I sometimes put on roles um, as being, an educator. Okay, so thinking of all the different roles, okay, that you put on, and then underneath that, who are we? And when I think of that, I automatically touch my heart, because for me, I want to come back into my heart. Hey, and it's through that that we tap into our buddhi. So this is our awareness. So we have that place in us that's our witness, that we can hear and sense and listen to universal consciousness, giving us sense of insights. This is what is called our intuition. So when we become quiet enough inside of us, we can connect to our intuition. We can allow ourselves to be guided by this. This is the highest stream of consciousness. Okay, then it's the ego, and then the manas and the mind. So the sum totality of the chitta is our mind, our manas, our ego, okay, and our awareness. So vritti means these fluctuations or modifications of the mind. So as described as mental activities, thoughts, or streams of consciousness. So a vritti, we can think of it as a ripple or a wave on the calm surface of our chitta, our consciousness. And so this is our whirlpool of thoughts. So when we have a lot of thoughts, they become quite disturbing for us. They create a lot of movement. So it's very hard for us to see below the surface of connecting to our true self or noticing that we're a part of something bigger. So when we meditate, we do yoga and pranayama or asana, we quiet these vrittis, these thought waves, so that we can then become a little bit calmer. And then we can see below the lake of the mind and recognize our true self, our Atman. So Nirodha, and this is the quieting of. So this refers to the cessations or quieting the fluctuations of the mind. Okay, so this is happening when we're removing any identification with our personality or feeling limited by the self or our thoughts. Okay, so using various tools that resonate with each of us, which is going to be a little bit different, that help us come in and quiet these fluctuations. Sometimes when certain thoughts arise, I might ask myself, is that true? As you think about that, you might notice that your thoughts or your perceptions might not be held in truth. And so when you dig a little bit deeper and you go underneath that fluctuation of how does my body and my nervous system respond to this thought pattern or this way of being on how I've been being through life, and is it serving me? So going back to the first sutra, coming back into the present moment, is it serving me? Can I let go of something and maybe shift and try a different way of moving through life so that I help to release some of my suffering? So, Nishchala Joy Devi, just wanting to bring in the translation of in book one, Sutra 2, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Nishchala translates it as yoga is uniting of consciousness in the heart. So, consciousness abides in the heart, not in the mind. So, the doorway through the fourth chakra, Anahata. Okay? The heart is the holder of consciousness. We can read this as well in the Upanishads. So a text that was written before the Yoga Sutras. So all of this knowledge is verbal knowledge that was passed down from teacher to teacher and then eventually written onto paper to be documented. And so when we think of, which is the normal translation of the sutra, is referencing the mind. So how we need to this quality of controlling the mind. So when we only think of consciousness as in the mind, then we try to control or restraint, and we feel this form of restriction, and it's a little bit harsh sometimes on how we come in and approach ourselves. And we get frustrated with ourselves, and we sometimes can be unkind in our thoughts. And so we lose that act of compassion for self. Okay? But when we approach ourselves from the heart, which responds more readily to tender, to gentle caring, this is the best way to help liberate and transform the mind, is remembering to be guided by the path of the heart. So yoga is uniting of consciousness into the heart. So allowing our heart to guide us. So thinking about these two sutras of yoga is happening right now in this very moment. But you can think of as you move through your day, how many times your chitta, your consciousness, is pulled outside of you, because that's the nature of consciousness, is to be pulled outside of us. And there's a quality of effort or intention, or what we would call a sankalpa, to create that intention to say, today, I'm going to try to come back into the present moment and allow my consciousness to arrive back into my heart and to sit back and witness many times as I can. Witness what's happening within body, within breath, within mind and emotion, and then listen to any intuitive wisdom that is coming towards you. So thank you for exploring the first and second sutra in book 1.